Thank you so much for joining us today for Women in Business with Veronika Spevakova, co-owner of Wills International. At this time, I would like to remind you to keep your microphones muted. Please note that we are also recording this event. At the end of the session, we will open the floor for discussion. Please place any questions that you might have in the chat. I will place my email in the chat if you should have any questions when we go offline. Now, I would like to give the floor to my colleague, Public Relations Specialist, Andrea Pohl.
Thank you, Mary. And welcome to today's online talk, Women in Business. Through the Women in Business series, the Embassy of the Czech Republic celebrates women doing business in America. It focuses on a variety of businesses, from small companies to large factories in a variety of sectors. The Women in Business series is a part of the Czech Embassy's Mutual Inspirations Festival 2023, Eliška Junkova. For those who don't know, Eliška Junkova was born in what is today Czech Republic. She is famously known as the Queen of the Steering Wheel. Although she only raced for 5 years in the 1920s, she went up against the world's top male drivers and became the first woman to win a Grand Prix. But Junkova was also a phenomenal businesswoman who combined business with her love of travel. When she retired from racing, her friend, Ettore Bugatti, sent her with a brand new Bugatti car to Sri Lanka to seek out potential business ventures, and she was very good at it. When she returned to the Czech lands in the 1930s, she collaborated with the prestigious Czech company Baťa on tire development. She joined the Czechoslovak Automobile Club from Moravia and Silesia, built a circus, and organized races. She remained an ambassador for the Bugatti brand. And it was this entrepreneurial spirit that inspired our Women in Business series. And with that, today we welcome a very savvy and passionate and extremely knowledgeable businesswoman, Veronika Spevakova, who is the co-owner of Wills International. Wills International is a family-owned importer and wholesaler of high-quality wines from the Czech Republic. Her company handpicks its collections for American consumers based on in-person wine tastings directly with the winemakers in the Czech Republic. Veronika Spevakova will elaborate on her background and business, and the discussion will be open to learn about her success and lessons learned from importing and competing on the American market. And with these words, I would like to welcome Veronika to the discussion. Hi, Veronika.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Andrea and everyone. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you very much for taking the time to be here. Could you please start off the discussion with telling us a little bit about yourself and your background?
So, as you can tell from my accent, I was born and raised in the Czech Republic, and I spent basically the first 23 years of my life growing up in our winery. Actually, the winery or parts of the vineyards are located right here on the picture that you can see. This picture actually captures so-called Dubňanská hora. It's basically like a really long street of thin vineyards that stretch over the rolling hills. And each vineyard at its foothill has these little wineries, little houses that look, that basically serve as places for processing the grapes. So this was my view for the first 23 years of my life, literally like right here. And when I was growing up, I think it was assumed that I would study and I would, learn all the ropes of the viticulture and viniculture from my father, and that I would continue working with him. However, I decided to take a little different path. I got on a scientific path. And so when I was 18, I left this beautiful view and moved to Prague, where I was studying microbiology and biochemistry. But you probably know that viniculture, so making wine, is actually nothing but microbiology and biochemistry. So there was still a very strong link between what I was learning and how I could apply it back at home. But then I decided not to go back at home, and instead I moved to the States. So that was a bit of a disappointment, I think, for my father, František Spevak. And then
It was in
many
college.
years later,
Is in college that you moved to the United States? Did you go to college here or what? Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually moved to the States, to Louisiana, to study and work at Louisiana State University as a research assistant and as a PhD student. So I was like really passionate about the academic path and about the science at the time.
Mhm.
And yeah, so that was exactly actually 20 years ago. So I landed in Louisiana, which has absolutely nothing to do with wine. They like to drink it, but there is the growing conditions are just not right for Louisiana, for wine to be grown in Louisiana. So we kind of like you know, that whole path in with the vineyards and with the winery was kind of put on hold. But later on, when we moved with my new family, we moved to New England, to Massachusetts, and we sort of continued to dream about Czech wines in general and about like how we could continue to be involved with the winery and with the family winery as well.
Mhm. Well, let me back up a little bit
Mhm.
because you are actually the co-owner of Wills International. And it's your husband also, and his background, that's very interesting because he's a great addition, obviously,
Yeah.
to the company. And can you tell us a little bit about his background and what he brings to the company?
Yeah, so my husband, who is from Louisiana, so he really never grew up around wine, but he was working at the time for a company that was actually involved in distribution. So he learned the ropes of distributing other products, but basically understanding how that business works. But he is also very good at resolving issues and finding a way. He thinks out of the box, while I'm generally someone who would be keeping herself in the box. So he figured out basically and studied all the regulations that are involved with wine import and with distribution of wine. And he has great skills with logistics, so moving things around and making sure that things, in this case, the wine, gets from safely from one place to another in a legal way. So that's his amazing skill. In addition to that, he also happens to be an artist. He's a photographer. So we will be, actually, this is one of his pictures as well. And as we go through the interview today, I'll be sharing with you a few more pictures from him, because looking at the Czech Republic, the culture, the tradition of the Czech Republic through the lens of someone who was born and raised in America and who has that excitement, who can see it from a completely different angle than people that were born and raised in the Czech Republic, it's exciting. It allows us to see it quite differently, and it allows us to actually make an emotional connection with the country as well.
Mm. Now, you guys make a fantastic team. I mean, you know everything about wine. You have all this experience. You grew up there. You have the connections. Um, you have the biology background to actually understand it. And then he, for his, experience with logistics, distribution, because, a lot of companies, they don't actually know how to bring, they have problems with bringing the stuff here, right? They're great products that we have in the Czech Republic, but how do you actually bring it here? So I think this is phenomenal that you were able to, pair with somebody and who shares your interest in wine, to bring it here and to work together on that. That's fantastic. So
Thank
can you
you.
tell us a little bit more, since you brought up the map right now, where is the winery? Like, where is the wine grown in the Czech Republic? Where is this Spevak Winery?
So yeah, here we're looking at the map of the Czech Republic. Obviously, it's in the heart of Europe. I think now finally people started talking about the Czech Republic as being located in Central Europe rather than Eastern Europe. That was my pet peeve for a while because geographically it is in the center. And most of the wine, so about 90% of the wine production is actually made in Moravia. And it's going to be down in the southeastern corner, the South Moravian region. That region is subdivided into 4 sub-regions, and our winery, Spevak Winery, is located in the Slovácko region, which is bordering right here with Slovakia. Slovácko is actually very close to, in its cultures, to Slovakia. So it's, while it's not noted on this map, the winery is located in the very southeastern corner of the region. So it's around the town called Velké Bílovice, which is the biggest, as far as I know, the biggest village, a wine producing village in the Czech Republic, with only 4,000 inhabitants and 650 registered wineries in a single village. And that's where my father comes from. So that's where he picked up his skills since he was a little boy, working in the vineyards with his family.
That is a concentration.
Yeah.
It's actually interesting from the first, I just may ask you, from the first picture that you showed with the village, how the village is, you said, on one street, and then you have the wineries behind all the houses, so you can see, you know, which winery belongs to which house.
So the first image, I will go back to that. The first image actually is showing Dubňanská hora. So hora means mountain. You can see the hill, which we call the mountain, the rolling hill. And so it's lined up with the it looks like a tiny house. It's very picturesque, but it's basically a winery where in the basement there is a wine cellar, because that's important for keeping the wine at the right temperature even during the hot summers. And then above that, above the wine cellar, is going to be the winery itself, where the wine is being processed. And then usually above that is like a little living quarter where people would have a couple of bedrooms, because during the wine harvest, they want to stay there. They want to be as close to the winery or the vineyard as possible. So this is basically it's a very long street. Yeah. And so in Dubňany, so this is outside of Dubňany, which is another village. And then over here we have a close-up of a similar street in Ratíškovice, which is right next to Dubňany. So all of these villages are located around, actually within the region called Hodonín. So that's the closest city. And then the next closest city would be Břeclav. So it's right there along the lines of Slovakia. Hodonín is actually a border town with Slovakia.
About how many acres, if may I ask, do these wineries comprise of? Because it's very long up this mountain, this hora.
Yeah.
How many acres is that?
It varies, and different families, usually each winery is owned by a family, so the families may scale back or grow their business depending on their capabilities. The size of our winery, which continues to be a family-owned winery only, is about 15 hectares of vineyards, which would translate to, and I always struggle here, I think about 25 acres of vineyards. And that size allows us to grow all the grapes ourselves, so that we don't have to purchase anything. We can actually, we can always trace the wine back to the vineyard as well, and to the grapes, because we have oversight over the quality of the wine. So that's very important for my dad.
Where did he get the original grapes? Are they from, the plants? Are they, if
The
I'm asking the right,
vines.
the wines, yes.
The vines, yeah. The vines would be that's something that you purchase. So there are specific, if they are actually starting a new vineyard from scratch, which does happen sometimes, the vines would be purchased from it's a winery, I guess we can call it. It's not a winery. It's basically like a horticulture place where they would have different types of vines, because the Czech Republic actually registered over 60 different vine varieties. So it allows the winemaker to make the right choice for their microclimate. So that, the combination between the soil, the climatic conditions, that's what defines the terroir. So every, different grapes basically prefer to grow in different conditions.
Could you tell us, before I get these beautiful pictures in front of me, could you tell me a little bit more about the different grapes and the wine that you produce, the different types of wine that you produce at the Spevak Winery?
Yeah. So we produce actually a huge variety of wines because we grow a variety of different types of grapes. So our selection is as colorful as these pictures are. I think that's why I wanted to share it here, because this really demonstrates the region, demonstrates the culture and the traditions of the region. And my father believes in people having a choice of, finding the right wine that they like, because we are all different. We have different palates, so we enjoy different things. Typically, the different wines would be divided into styles. So you're going to have dry wines, you're going to have off-dry wines, you're going to have sweet wines. And with that goes the phenolic profile of the wine. Then you have red, you have rosé, you have white wines, of course. So, but if each different grape variety has a different phenolic profile, which means that it's going to smell different, it's going to taste different, it's going to have a different body, it's going to have a different level of acidity. So having different types of grapes allows us to, really choose within the production what people like. So he grows wines that are the traditional wines, and as well as some international varieties such as Chardonnays or Pinot Blanc, Pinot Grigio, Pinot Noir. Because he is also deeply committed to sustainability, he also grows grapes that allow him to be grown sustainably. And that would be some indigenous grapes to Moravia, such as Vesna or Cabernet Moravia, which is a cab, or Hibernal Donfelder. So those are new hybrids that are better fitted for our growing conditions in the Czech Republic. And that leads again to improved quality of the wines. So he really combines the tradition, and here we're looking at tradition with innovation. And the innovation is in understanding what type of grape is the right fit for that environment, for that vineyard specifically.
That's fantastic. And maybe since we were talking about this region, in Moravia and where it's located, how does the temperatures and the climate there compare to the rest of the Czech Republic? Why is everything concentrated right there in Moravia?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, like I said, only 90% of the wine production comes from Moravia, and I believe it's because of the unique composition of the soil and of also the climatic conditions. So basically, wine growing requires sufficient amount of sunlight, for photosynthesis. And see, this is the biochemistry that I learned at school. So without that, without sun, there is really no growth. There is no conversion of the grapes, and development into, sugars, obviously, which later on the yeast have to consume in order to produce the alcohol. So we need that, but we also need all of the beautiful aromas of the wine. So Moravia has that. There are rolling hills. Some people even refer to Slovácko as the Moravian Tuscany. So you have beautiful rolling hills that are partially either covered with the vineyards, and the vineyards would be either south or southwest facing. So that means that they get the maximum amount of sunlight during our summers. And but there's also the river Moravia, which basically moderates the climate, right? It's a dry continental climate, but always having water, having river running through it, it stabilizes the temperatures, so that the temperatures are not like, crazy up and down. They are more moderated. So I believe all of that together with the tradition again, basically, developed into such a beautiful tradition of winemaking as we have. And here on this picture on the left, you can actually see the couple holding a glass of white wine, which would be probably the most typical to consume during the traditional festivals.
Can you tell us a little bit about these festivals and what they're wearing for those people who might not know about kroje in the Czech Republic?
Yeah, so at the festivals are called hody. They always take place throughout the summer into the fall. So I think that even what is it now, November? So they still, in some villages they would still have hody as well. It's basically a harvest festival, so it's celebrating the gift of the land, which for us and Moravia, that's going to be obviously the wine. And it's just, it's an excuse to have fun with your friends and to dress up. But I think historically, when the villages were kind of more isolated in the past, it was difficult to travel. Well, the only way to travel between villages would be on horses and carriages. Getting together at specific times allowed the villagers to actually, form relationships and maintain relationships. What these people are wearing here in the pictures is called kroj. So it's and actually we're looking here at kroj from Kyiv. So Kyiv that's a town not far from us as well, and that a region, within a certain distance of Kyiv, most of the villages would have the same type of kroj. But then when you get into other parts, so basically you maybe travel only about another 5 miles to another village, they're going to have a different kroj, which is really interesting. There is actually a really good reason for it. I've heard, and I don't know if this is true because I didn't really dig into it too much, but I have heard that this was to make sure that to actually avoid inbreeding. So basically avoid, people from the same village who will have the same genetic information, genetic background, who would be a family, to avoid them getting together. So basically, if you are
really smart, yes.
if you're wearing one type of kroj, then automatically you would try to, make friends with someone who is wearing a different kroj, because that means that they are probably not your cousin. They're from a different village. So that's the reason. But they are, so all of these costumes are handmade to this day. there are, you know, many people, usually women, when they're retired, they would be hand sewing them and hand stitching them, embroidering them, and it's a family gem, really. You know, they get passed down from family member to a family member. So within my family, for example, my brother-in-law, he has pieces as part of his skirt that are as old as 100 years old. So it's really, really special, and we love to maintain these traditions.
Can you show us a picture of him? I believe he's in one of your slides.
Oh, he's right here. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, he is right here with my beautiful sister. So they are wearing actually a kroj that would be very festive. So this is something that they would wear either during the festivals, during Hodi, or that would be a Sunday mass outfit. So in the past, people would wear kroj to the church. And my sister is actually wearing, because she's married, so she has the scarf on her head, just as a sign of marriage. She's not showing her hair anymore. But her kroj is actually a warmer version to it. So that's something that she would be actually wearing like in the fall into the winter. There are different versions. Lighter versions would be worn either in the summer and or to the vineyards, you know, so there would be like working versions of kroj, and then the more festive ones.
In regards to these festivities called Hodi, how long do they last, and can Americans go visit?
Oh, that is the best time to come to visit. My husband has visited these festivals a few times as well, and he had just such a blast. It's magical. When half of the village dresses up like this, and then they march through the village, they sing, they dance. So it usually is a full weekend celebration. Always goes very late into the night. There's always a lot of white wine typically consumed, so it's a lot of fun, and yeah, it's a beautiful occasion where everyone really gets to wear their kroj, and they get to, you know, socialize
And enjoy the
while
wine.
maintaining the
Yes.
traditions. Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
go back to that other slide where there's a parade of the ladies in their kroj?
Yes, right here. Yeah.
This
Yeah,
is
so
amazing. These are all young girls, I presume, because they have short skirts on.
yes. And yeah, and they have different scarves. So these are the Turkish scarves that they wear, and that actually signifies that they are single, I believe. And yeah, they probably inherited kroj from their grandmothers, and they would you can actually see the layering on the skirts. They're typically anywhere between 5 to 7 skirts underneath that red skirt. So it's you know, it's a really puffy multi-layered skirt, and then it's actually not very comfortable to wear it, to be honest with you. It wasn't my favorite thing to do when I was a child, but then later on, as you grow into it, like, I think everyone just learns to appreciate it. Yeah,
Very much so. I mean, the heritage, you know, but just looking at these outfits goes back thousands of years. So
yeah.
it's amazing that it's been passed down. Can you getting back to the products? Well, actually, this is the harvest.
Yes, this is the harvest, and this coincides typically with Hodi, with the festivals. So usually when so the harvest time in the Czech Republic, as the dry continental area would be, the harvest time is basically anywhere between September through even November. So, but definitely September and October. Typically the red grapes, as we can see here, would be harvested later in that season. So that would be probably in October, because the fall has, typically in Moravia, we're gonna get nice dry afternoons, and sunny afternoons. So that actually allows the red grapes to really be exposed to the sun as much as possible and to really develop into the phenolic properties that I was talking about. So here we're looking at how we handpick every single grape. We do not use any automation for this process because we want to, again, even at the time of the handpicking, make sure that the grapes are ripe and that they're not, they don't have any diseases on them, so they're healthy. And so every grape gets picked like this. Here we're looking at the hands of my daughter who had to train to do this. I don't know how much she picked versus how much she ate of these grapes because they happen to be delicious as well. But it's, you know, it's important to teach them young, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's actually a question. I'm sorry, let me just get to this question. Jennifer has a question. She's asking, what are the grape varietals grown?
So the grape varietals are, it was alluding to the fact that we have many of them. So it really ranges from the international varieties, such as the Chardonnay, Rieslings, Pinot Gris, Pinot Noir, Pinot Blanc. Then we have, you know, Sauvignon Blanc as well. And then the red grape varieties would be, for example, Donfelder. I think that's probably the one that we're looking at here. That's a originally it's a German grape variety. That's actually one of the hybrids, so it's better fitted to be grown in our environment. But we also have there are also Merlots. Oh, so many to list. I sometimes I can't even keep track of of the different varieties. Not every variety is basically the right fit for the season because, like I said, they all need their specific growing conditions. So just, you know, sometimes, you know, if it rains too much, then Riesling is not gonna do that well in that environment. So it all depends on the vintage itself. I hear the 2023 vintage is going to be very good, and I'm gonna be visiting the Czech Republic very soon. So I'm very excited that I'm gonna get my hands on the first samples because some of the first wines, they call them San Martin's wines, they were released just the past weekend. That was a big celebration. So I'm excited that I will get to try some of them as well, and then I can report back to you.
It's fantastic. Can you, since we're looking at this as well, can you just finish telling us about the process of, you know, picking the grapes, hand picking them, you know, putting them into these large basins and, you know, what happens next?
Yeah, so the grapes get picked by hand. They go into the bucket that my brother David is holding. That's on the right side here. And then from the bucket, we carry the buckets into this stainless steel basin. And it's not a huge basin, really. It can fit, actually volume-wise, I have no idea. But as soon as that basin is filled up, my brother jumps in the tractor and he runs with it to the winery where he actually starts the winemaking process. Depending on the type of the grape, that winemaking process is going to be different. So for example, for red wines, he is going to just crush the grapes, and then he is going to allow the grapes and the skins and the seeds, everything to actually macerate together. And that's, you know, for days and days and ferment at the same time. So that basically releases the polyphenols and all the good stuff that, you know, the tannins from the skins along with the color into the juices. And that's how we get red wine. But your favorite rosé wine would be made actually from these grapes as well by crushing them, but then allowing only a short contact with the skins so that we get just enough of the color to make it, you know, to become a rosé wine, and the phenolic profile, but not too many of the tannins because then it would be too tart to drink. So basically the process is different, but bottom line is that the grapes make it into the winery literally within less than an hour, and they are processed right away. So they're healthy and they're fresh.
I was going to say,
And
I guess
that's the
that's
secret.
important to get them there immediately, and not
Yes.
to let them
Yeah.
sit. Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't want the grapes to sit around, and then they basically, as soon as they're taken off the vine, they start undergoing a secondary I should say probably primary fermentation, just because they have native yeasts on top of the skins. They're just naturally, the yeast are naturally there. So because they are sweet, the yeast have a natural tendency to consume the sugar. So it basically starts an uncontrolled fermentation process, which then leads to the grapes being not being basically of the best quality. So our goal is to control the process as much as possible. So that's why we process them very quickly. Everything is processed in the stainless steel. It's called a reductive process, where we try to keep the oxygen out of it and keep the phenolic profile of the grapes in. So that is really the secret to these fresh tasting and expressive wines that so many people have fallen in love with already.
And getting to those wines, can you tell us about the wines that you are currently importing into the United States?
Yes, yeah. So actually, since I'm on this slide, this is actually my dad pouring one of his wines along with my mom. My mom has to assist as well in her kroj. But we import the wines to the United States under a single label, and it's called Moravian wines. The label is really representative of the region. So Moravia, again, is the appellation. And we also like to capture the tradition in here. And so that's why all of our labels carry that beautiful Moravian symbol on the top, which is actually a symbol of an apple, and then leaves and a mixture of different flowers in it.
Fantastic. Your logo is fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very simple, but it does allow us continuity. So we have the Moravian white, Moravian rosé, and Moravian red wines. And the bottom of the label then informs the consumer about which grape variety that wine is made from. So that's going to be either, here we're looking at Pinot Blanc for the white wine, or Blaufränkisch for the rosé wine. So I believe, as a consumer myself, I never remember labels. So if I fall in love with a wine, the only way for me to remember it is to actually take a picture of it. And so we want to really, this is part of the branding. We want to have people really fall in love with it and remember it, so that when they are in the store, and even without their phone, they can actually find it in there, and they can see like, oh yeah, those are, the wines from the Czech Republic. And under the same label, but with a note of a different winery, we're also able to expand the business from our family winery to also expand it to including other Czech wineries, because there is so much to share with the American market. So right now, it would say Moravian Red by Spevak Winery, but if we were to import products from different wineries, we would obviously update the name to reflect the winery that the wine would come from.
Can you tell me just a little bit about the taste, of the wines? Because you're so passionate and you know so much about it, and I love your wine. I love the rosé. Can you just tell me, though, just a little bit, in our viewers, just a little bit about the different tastes?
So the taste of the wine really should reflect the taste of the grape. Sometimes when I explain it to people, I tell them that we want the wine to speak grape, not to speak the language of the winery where the process happens, but really to speak the native language of the grape. So if, for example, you like the rosé from the Cap, so that the Caps are typical for having like strawberry, raspberry aromas in it, and that's what you get in the wine like right away. Along with, in the case of the wine that you like, you also get honey undertones in there because that wine was the grapes were very ripe at the time of the harvest. And the riper they are, the sweeter they are. So then, of course, that translates into the style of the wine as well. If there are, another variety could be Riesling, for example. So when people are tasting Riesling, they're gonna right away smell the tropical undertones in there and the lemon. And then when they swallow it, they're like, why is this so fresh? It's like lip smacking. And that's because of the beautiful acidity that the Rieslings typically carry. So every Riesling should kind of have like a nice long finish because of its natural acidity. And so again, this is all well known. So if you Google Pinot Grigio, what is that supposed to taste like? Then you should be getting that in our wines. And I'm really proud of that because it's not easy. It's really the experience of the winemaker to understand what that wine needs depending on the vintage and how to make it work. So it's a lot of hard labor all throughout the year, and it's all peaking at the time of the harvest, but it's actually, part of it is understanding the chemistry, it's understanding the processes, and it's art as well. My dad also makes cuvées, so that means blends. And actually the red bottle that we're looking at here is a blend of 3 different varieties. Unfortunately, we don't have this wine anymore. It's that whole batch is already gone, but it's a blend of a Cab, Merlot, and Dornfelder. And so the art comes in his expertise of blending these varieties together. So figuring out actually what is it, what profile he can use from these 3 individual wines, right? How to blend them together, in what ratio, and then whether to oak it, how long to oak it for, how long to actually allow it to mature on the bottle before releasing it. And the red wine was actually the first wine that we imported to the US market. And we were, to be honest with you, we were a little, not worried, but we were like, you know what, the Czech Republic is excellent in making rosés, but mainly the white wines. The red wines are, compared to Californian Cabs, it may seem like our wines are much lighter. So not everyone likes lighter red wines. Well, we were really impressed with the reception that this red wine got on the market. It was gone very, very quickly. It was probably the first one that was sold out, period. So I have to say that I really applaud my dad's knowledge and expertise and understanding of what people are looking for, even on the American market.
So getting to the American market, where can we find the wine? Is it online, or are you planning a store, an actual location where you will be selling them?
So it's a combination. We are importers, and we also have a distribution license in Massachusetts where we're based. But we also work with other importers and distributors throughout other states. So the wine can be purchased directly in stores and some restaurants in Massachusetts, Iowa, Texas, Nebraska, and California. And we also partnered with Czech Wines Direct, which is actually an online-based platform which sells the wine directly to the consumers online. So it's czechwinesdirect.com, where a selection of these wines can be purchased as well.
Fantastic. Can you also give us the website for Wills International?
So it's willsinternational.com. And we have the description of all of the wines that are available right now. So it's about 10 different varieties, ranging from the whites to the rosé and to reds as well,
That's
including
fantastic.
their information and the tasting notes on all of them.
I have just a couple of more questions for you. I would like to ask you, as a woman doing business in America, have you, how is your experience? Have you experienced any hurdles, or, or does your passion overgrow, tackle all of them? And
Yeah, it has not been easy, that's for sure. So we took a long time to even start the business. We were thinking about it and gathering information, basically doing our market research for over a decade. My husband actually, the first time he came up with the idea of importing the Czech wines was shortly after we met. So it's been more than a decade. When we started the business, which was actually during the pandemic, I think we had, very realistic expectations at the time, because we understood how things work. But yeah, we definitely learned so much more since we started. The wine business is a cutthroat business in the States. And the fact that every state has its own legislature involving moving alcohol products around does not make it any easier. So it's basically like learning 50 different legislatures at the same time. There is, it takes time for sure. And we learned that, and basically it all comes down to awareness. We have to, for me, my biggest job is continuously to explain people about what is the Czech Republic. Changing the names from Czechoslovakia to Czech Republic to Czechia certainly doesn't help, so we kind of like have to go back to basics and be like, okay, this is where we're located, and this is why these wines are actually really cool to try and explore. And the fact that the Czech Republic is not only the land of the beer, which people may know, or the land of ice hockey, right? It's also the land of wine. And what gets me really excited is when people discover it, they taste it, they're like, wow, like we're totally blown away. We did not expect it. And then they love it so much that they actually go there. They buy a ticket and they fly to the Czech Republic and they explore Prague, or even, outside Prague. People can actually go to different wineries. There are now winery tours in addition to brewery tours. So that's where I get like really proud about the fact that, we can share a little piece of heaven with people, and it enriches them and it enriches us, because then when they come back, like I have so many friends come back and they're like, oh my gosh, Prague is like so magical. It's like a fairy tale. And I'm like, yep, I told you so. So I think that's what makes me really excited about it. So through that, I learned that I have to be patient. Not everyone can travel there right away. Not everyone is in tune. Not everyone is actually interested in the wine, and that's totally fine. It's not a commodity. The wine is special. It's exquisite. We bring to the States only wines that really represent the Czech Republic, and they represent the heritage and the skills. So I think that's the number one thing, that we learned, the patience, and then networking. So, through building our network of connections, we're slowly getting to where the wine, my goal is to make the wine available to those who want it. all around the States.
And we thank you because we have had, your company, Wills International, here at the Embassy of the Czech Republic, just recently at the Czech Christmas market, where we had 4,000 people attend the market. And if I may say, you sold out in just a couple of hours. There was so much interest in your wine. That's, we were so proud to have you here. And obviously the people were very happy to be able to taste Moravian wine, and they immediately took it home with them to fill up those stockings.
Yeah. That was that specific event always makes me very happy because I love the direct contact with the consumer. I love to see people's reactions when they come in expecting nothing, and then they leave and they say, wow, this was the best wine tasting that we ever went to. So this was the best wine that we ever had. Like that's why we're doing it. And part of that is really sharing and raising the awareness of the Czech Republic. So it is just very, very important to me as, being a proud Czech, but also being a proud American, to share part of my heritage with the people that are willing to explore it.
I wanted to just interject just really quickly. To Veronika, thank you so much for today. It was wonderful. I think part of that experience that you have when you're tasting your wine, you have the Croix, you have the tasting, and you offer just like Andrea was saying, you have such a passion and you're so savvy for what you do. So I think that also is part of making you so successful in marketing your product and just bringing that enjoyment to people. I just wanted to interject that my favorite wine is obviously the white wines. But I will say that the red wines, you probably hit a niche because of the lighter wine. Like we do have the heavy wine here, but that light, nice flavorful wine of the lighter wine, I think really hits the market well.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely shows up in the numbers. Yeah, I agree. So there's plenty of red wine in the Czech Republic, beautiful red wine. So we're very lucky, and we will work on bringing more over here.
Lastly, Andrea, did you have any other questions to add, or Veronika, would you like to add anything to the conversation? I can't hear Andrea.
I apologize. Are there any questions from the audience that we didn't answer? I just
The
want to
only
make sure.
the only other question is if we could share this presentation. One of our Jennifer would like to get the slide deck if it's possible. She sees it as a great educational tool. So if you would be okay with that, I can share that.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Yeah.
And if Jennifer, if you could just share your email when I go offline, I will share it with you.
No, I really appreciate learning everything about wine and winemaking and about the products, that you have imported here to the United States. Thank you, for sharing all this information with us. And, we're just so proud to work with you.
Oh no, it's such a pleasure to work with you guys as well. And I think we can do so much together because I do think people need to know about this. People need to know about what a gem the Czech Republic is in general, and how hardworking its people are, and how knowledgeable they are. Because the way that I think that the key piece is really melting together the tradition, so the traditional knowledge, but together with the innovation, so that we can move forward, that we can really grow and produce the wines sustainably, so we can enjoy beautiful wines, but we also do not burden the land with unnecessary, chemistry, and we can preserve our land for future generations. So that's what we're really, really passionate about, and I think that's the future of winemaking in general. And I really appreciate being here today. And I would really encourage any woman to follow her dreams, because it's even when it takes time, and everything takes time, it is really fulfilling when the first fruits of labor come in, and when happy customers keep coming back. And I think with wine in general, it's really fun just to really share a nice glass of wine with a good company. So there's an instant gratification in there.
Thank you so much, Veronika, for sharing your vision and journey with us. We are extremely grateful. I should say cheers or na zdraví
Na
to
zdraví.
you and in your journey ahead. We will have our next Women in Business series on November 28th with the Deputy Director of Czech Trade, Monika Shabalova. We hope that you'll join us. And until then, thank you again and have a great day. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye now.
Na zdraví.
Na zdraví.